Right now, a school district is closed and a student in the hospital as the investigation continues into an officer-involved shooting.
And we're learning more about another shooting that happened inside a school earlier this week, leaving one student in the hospital.
From the Channel3000.com Alert Center, this is News 3 Now this morning.
Good morning, folks, and thanks for staying with us on your Wednesday, December 4th. We are continuing to follow breaking news out of the Madison School District this morning, where police are investigating a pellet gun incident on a school bus.
Keely Arthur is here to tell us how the district is handling this case. Keely, good morning.
Good morning, you two. Yeah, this is extra unnerving, especially considering the two school shootings that happened already earlier in Wisconsin this week. What we know so far is that this incident happened yesterday afternoon in Madison. Parents got an email about it last evening explaining that a student from Thomas Jefferson Middle School said they were getting off a Badger bus when they were hit from a bullet by a pellet gun from another student. Jefferson's principal, Tequila Kurtz, says the school was told about the incident by the family of the student who was hit. Kurtz says the district doesn't have any reason to believe the student with the alleged pellet gun wanted to harm anyone. She says the school will be talking with students about positive behavior expectations and the seriousness of having any type of weapon or toy replica. Kurth goes on to encourage students to tell trusted adults about anything they know that concerns them at school, saying in part, we want students to feel empowered to positively change the culture of silence that can exist. Your child's voice matters. Now, per district guidelines found on the district's website, if a toy weapon is on a student but is not used to harm anyone, that student might receive some sort of intervention without discipline. However, students who use a toy weapon to threaten or harm another person can get an out-of-school suspension of up to 3 days. Obviously, there are a lot of gray areas in regards to this situation. We are contacting the school district and Madison police to get you more details, including if that student who was hit was injured at all.
All right, Keely Arthur, we know you'll be following this for us this morning. Keely, thank you.
Thanks.
So we now know a pellet gun was also involved in the school shooting in Waukesha early this week. Police say the 17-year-old pointed a pellet gun at another student's head during a confrontation. You can see that weapon in these new pictures from Waukesha police. The teen also pointed the gun at officers. Police shot the student 3 times, once in the leg and twice in the arm.
I know people are going to say stuff about, oh, you can tell the difference between a pellet gun and a real gun. You can't. I will get 100 firearms experts to look at that picture right there, and 100 will say that's a firearm.
Now, police immediately gave the student first aid, stopping the bleeding. The student is still in the hospital this morning, but once he's released, he will be going to jail.
Another Wisconsin school district is closed today after the second school shooting in as many days here in Wisconsin. It happened at Oshkosh West High School yesterday morning. The city's police chief says a 16-year-old student went into a school resource officer's office and stabbed them. That officer then shot the student 1 time.
People just said run, so our teacher closed the door, locked in, then we just put up chairs and tables up. Then we opened up the windows and just jumped out, and then we ran across the street towards the church. And we didn't really know what else was going on after that. We were just running for our lives basically then.
Both the officer and the student were hurt in this incident, but will recover from their injuries. CBS This Morning will have the latest from Oshkosh just after 7.
2 of Governor Evers' kids graduated from Oshkosh West High. Today he says, quote, we can't keep pretending that this only happens in other communities or in other states. It's happening here, too.
Attorney General Josh Kaul is also reacting to the shooting. He says the state needs to work to identify potential threats earlier and continue to invest in safety precautions.
Our school, Office of School Safety works to provide training on threat assessments, to provide guidance to schools on school safety measures, and I think continuing to invest in training and in protocols that office can provide, and also research into what can make our schools safer is really valuable and something I think that we need to continue supporting.
So the amount of gun background checks taking place this year is more than last year's amount. On Black Friday alone, more than 202,000 checks were run through the National Background Check System. That made for the second highest single day in history. FBI data shows the number is 11% higher compared to last year. 2017's Black Friday still had a slightly higher total of 203,000.
6:04 is your time right now. Meteorologist Hattie McLean is here now with a look at your first alert forecast. Hi, Hattie.
Good morning, Josh and Leah. We're starting on a pretty quiet note this morning. The difference between today and yesterday, skies are actually clear here in and around Dane County. Just a little bit of cloud cover to the south and west this morning, but most of us will actually see the sunrise early today. Here's a look at our current temperatures. Temps are right around 30 in many locations, so not terribly cold. Wind is going to be a factor today. Look at those wind speeds. Northwest around 15 to up to 20 miles an hour at times, so that will take our high temperature of 38 and actually make it feel a little bit colder. So you may want to add another layer today. Here's a look at your first alert traffic maps this morning. We're showing you what's happening in and around Madison. Just a few brake lights popping up on the belt line at Stoughton Road. That's pretty typical for this time of the morning. No other issues though to report around southern Wisconsin. Coming up in just a few minutes, we'll talk about a cool down that is in the forecast. Not until next week, but it may bring some rain and then eventually some snow to southern Wisconsin.
All right, Hattie, we will see you then. Thank you. The State Department of Safety and Professional Services is investigating after a UW-Madison employee died from a fall while working on campus. 75-year-old Roberto Vergara had worked for UW for 10 years before this accident over the weekend. He fell while leaving a building and hit his head on the sidewalk on Bernard Court just off of Park Street near the Ogden Celery dorms. A coworker called 911 and Vergara was taken to the hospital but later died from his injuries on Monday. A university vice chancellor said in a statement, quote, "We are all saddened to learn that Roberto passed away. We are keeping his family, friends, and campus colleagues in our thoughts during this difficult time." The Employee Assistance Office is contacting employees for counseling and support.
UW-Madison police are investigating tens of thousands of dollars worth of stolen instruments on campus. UWPD says 6 instruments locked up in the humanities building's basement went missing over Thanksgiving break. Those were worth nearly $30,000. For music students like Samantha Carter, who lost her violin valued at about 10 grand, it's about more than just the money lost, but the ability to learn.
I've made so many sacrifices for this instrument, and I've been through so much with this instrument, personally, professionally.
The director of UW School of Music says the department is doing everything it can to support the affected students, including loaning them new instruments. Police are also working with building staff on security procedures, hoping to prevent something like this from happening again. Anyone with information on that burglary should call the campus police department.
New this morning, your Madison West High School student will no longer receive a grade lower than 40%. That's according to the district's new policy for freshmen at the high school. WPR reports it's part of a new push to help improve student GPAs. In most classes right now, anything below a 60% is considered failing. The goal here is to help students move up to a passing grade easier if they're starting at 40% instead of a 0. The new policy will only impact a handful of classes, including English, math, and science. Lafayette and East also have a couple of classes that will follow that rule.
All right, parents, you have a chance to share your thoughts on what your elementary school kids should be reading in school. The Madison School District is holding a pair of public input sessions on K-5 reading materials. The first of those is happening tonight at Aldo Leopold Elementary. The district decided earlier this year to change its reading curriculum from cueing techniques, meaning students are encouraged to guess words they don't know, to using sounds to figure out those words. This change comes as Wisconsin's reading test scores continue to fall down the national rankings. Now, tonight's meeting at Leopold is at 6 p.m. If you can't make it, there's another meeting happening tomorrow night at the same time at Lincoln Elementary.
8 minutes past 6 o'clock right now on a Tuesday morning. The impeachment inquiry takes another step today with the latest public hearings. We'll tell you what we came out of with the first round of hearings and what to expect today.
And we are keeping things sunny and cool for most of the week. Not a chance of rain or snow in sight until early next week. Hattie's bringing you the latest weather updates. It's coming up when News 3 Now This Morning returns.
This portion
Good morning from the Hattie-O patio. If you're just waking up this morning, temperatures are a little bit warmer, right around 30, but it does feel colder outside when you factor in the wind. And wind will be a big factor in our forecast throughout the day today. We don't have any snow on the ground here in southern Wisconsin, but boy, there is a lot of snow on the ground in the North Woods, several inches after last weekend's storm. And looks like temperatures will be cold enough next week that we could see a little bit of snow here in southern Wisconsin. But if you're still thinking that maybe you can get those Christmas decorations out, Mother Nature giving you another chance today. With the winds, you may want to stay off the roof, but otherwise, it's a green light for today if you need to hang up any Christmas or holiday decorations. Let's take a look at that high temperature trend. I mentioned things are going to be cooling down as we head into next week, and cooling down a big way. Normal highs will be in the low 30s, but we will be struggling to get into the low 20s for several days next week. So plan on a bigger cool down coming up. Right now, though, enjoy the relatively mild conditions. High pressure is in control of the weather across the midsection of the country and really zoomed out well around Madison. Hard pressed to find any significant weather to report this morning. It is just very quiet. No cold air on the map right now, though. Even to the north in International Falls, it's 29 degrees. That's pretty close to where we are here in Madison. It's 30 at this hour. We've been holding pretty steady for the last couple of hours. Temperatures haven't changed much in the Dells either. 27 degrees there. It's 32 in Prairie du Chien and Platteville, and now 30 in Janesville. Here's a look at your future track wind speeds. I mentioned winds are going to be a factor today. They'll be anywhere from 15 to 20 miles an hour or the lunch hour and early afternoon time frame. So if you're spending any significant time outside, you will notice that wind chill today. It'll make it feel significantly cooler. Here's a look at your wind chill forecast. Feeling like low to mid 20s this morning, only improving to the low 30s this afternoon. So might want to add an extra layer today. Your future track forecast model, though, still brings plenty of sunshine into the area. By lunchtime, temperatures will be in the mid to upper 30s. We'll top in the upper 30s today in most spots, but then quickly cool down this evening. That extended forecast calls for mild temperatures tomorrow, but I did add more cloud cover to the forecast for tomorrow. So we're not going to see as much sunshine on Thursday. Friday will be sunny, but colder with a high of 31. Into the 40s for the weekend, but then that big cool down starting on Monday with some light snow as well across the area. Now it's time to get a look at your News 3 Now First Alert traffic maps. We'll send it over to Josh Tim for all the details. Good morning, Josh.
Yeah, it's another quiet start on the Beltline so far this morning. Really no delays showing up yet in either direction at this point. Other roads here in Dane County not looking too bad. Just some of the usual brake lights are starting to pop up on Stoughton Road and Verona Road as you approach the Beltline ramps. No problems downtown around campus. Volume shouldn't be a factor at least for another hour or so. And other main routes heading into the city, they're cruising at the usual speeds right now with no major crashes or delays. Your First Alert Traffic, I'm Josh Tim.
Josh and Hattie, thank you both very much. 6:15 is your time this morning. The House Judiciary Committee will hold its first public impeachment hearing in just a few hours. This comes after the House Intelligence Committee approved a report of the investigation into President Trump's dealings with Ukraine, which came to the conclusion that the president looked to misuse his office and for personal and political gain. Republicans produced their own report saying there's no first-hand account of any wrongdoing. CBS will have coverage of that hearing after News 3 Now this morning, with Nora O'Donnell anchoring that coverage starting just after 9.
Meanwhile, President Trump is still at the NATO summit in London this morning. He sat down with French President Emmanuel Macron and Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau yesterday. He called on both leaders to increase their country's military spending. The president will meet with German Chancellor Angela Merkel later today.
The group of Democratic candidates is thinning out just months ahead of the Iowa caucuses. Kamala Harris says she looked over her campaign finances over the weekend and decided she couldn't go on. Another factor in her decision was Mike Bloomberg, who in less than 10 days spent more than twice what Harris raised all year. CBS News polling shows that among Harris supporters, their second choices are Elizabeth Warren and Joe Biden.
Andrew Yang's campaign, meanwhile, is reaching out to the FBI after reportedly getting several death threats during its latest tour. A Yang campaign official told The Hill that emails sent from a user going by the name Hitman Yang threatened to shoot members of his team while they were in New Hampshire. The emails reportedly referenced the campaign's tweets, saying if the number of tweets reached an unspecified amount, members of that campaign would be shot.
It took almost a week, but the devastating fires at a chemical plant are finally out. An explosion happened at the Texas facility the day after Thanksgiving, sparking multiple fires and forcing tens of thousands to evacuate their homes. Environmental response specialists are assessing remaining debris with concerned residents. An all clear hasn't been issued and TPC hasn't said what caused the explosion. Residents were allowed to return to their homes on Friday.
6:17 on your Wednesday. The U.S. could be facing a shortage of your favorite side. We'll tell you how a short growing season is affecting fast food chains up next.
And Hattie's updating her bus stop forecast, which includes a nice sunrise this morning. You're watching News 3 Now this morning. We thank you for that, and we'll be right back. Coming up on 6:21 on a Wednesday morning, first glimpse of the sunrise to start us off, which is really going to be a really nice day out there, Hattie.
It actually is. Nice to see the sunshine early in the morning. We've missed out on the sunrise the last couple of days, but skies are clear here in Madison. Temperatures are pretty close to 30 degrees, so when you just look at the temp, it actually doesn't look that bad. Today, you'll need to factor in the wind, though. Wind chill will be a factor in the forecast, rather. As you head through the afternoon, wind chills will only be in the lower 30s. Temperatures will be quite a bit warmer, but that wind chill will make it feel colder today. So remind the kids to maybe add that extra layer before they leave home this morning. Partly to mostly sunny skies through the day today. Temperatures will still top in the upper 30s, but as I mentioned, feeling a little bit cooler.
All right, thank you very much, Hattie. Our friends upstate are trying to manage the snow, meanwhile, a little bit different up there, while waiting on plows to finish clearing their streets. Officials up in Superior say it's going to be a slow process. Nearly 2 feet of snow fell over a 24-hour period just this weekend. Only the heaviest equipment has been able to get through the streets and break down the ice that's underneath. The city's mayor says he's considering declaring a state of emergency for that city. And it's more of the same just across the border in the city of Duluth. They're also struggling to clear the streets this morning. Some residential roads haven't even seen a plow since that storm started.
Crazy images there. The numbers for this year's gun deer season are in and they're low. The Wisconsin DNR is blaming a late season and unfavorable weather for the low harvest numbers. The data shows hunters killed just under 161,000 deer this year, which is down 25% from last year.
New this morning, Wisconsin wolves might no longer be considered endangered soon. WPR reports there are calls to remove the animal from the endangered list as it's rebounded to more than 900 animals across the state. 60 years ago, gray wolves were considered extinct in Wisconsin. However, hunters and farmers say the gray wolf is threatening their animals and causing a nuisance. For decades, the species has been protected by the Federal Endangered Species Act.
If you're a fan of French fries, look out. There could be a shortage due to a poor potato crop. Experts say cold and wet weather this year has stunted the growth of potatoes. Retailers rely on long potatoes to make French fries, but there's not enough of those to go around. U.S. potato producers are having to turn to foreign producers to help make up for that loss. The U.S. Department of Agriculture forecasts that potato production will drop a little over 6% for the year. That's the lowest drop since 2010. This all could mean higher prices for potatoes at the grocery store.
And to a healthier alternative this morning, there's a new way to feed the family fresh fruit without worrying about emptying the fridge at the end of the week. An apple that could last up to a year in the fridge is starting to hit grocery store shelves across the U.S. It took researchers and farmers 2 decades to make the Cosmic Crisp apple. It's a mixture of Enterprise and Honeycrisp apples. The acidity of the Cosmic Crisp supposedly prevents it from turning brown as quickly as other apples. Only about 500,000 boxes are available this year, but in 2020, there should be more than 2 million.
This is good news because I feel like I can never eat fruit fast enough without having to throw it out.
And who doesn't love a crisp apple?
Oh,
Great snack.
Honeycrisp is my favorite.
Well, this is a version of it, so there you go.
A little bit of peanut butter on there, and oh man.
Ooh, making us hungry
I
at
know.
6:30 in the morning.
Always hungry.
Let's go take a snack break. All right, still ahead, we are bringing you the latest on a story breaking overnight of a Madison student shot with a pellet gun on a school bus.
Also ahead, we're following another school shooting incident here in Wisconsin that has a student in the hospital this morning. We'll have the latest coming up next on News 3 Now this morning.
From the Channel3000.com Alert Center, this is News 3 Now this morning.
Good morning, folks, and thanks for joining us on this Wednesday, December 4th. We are continuing to follow news breaking overnight of a Madison middle school student who says they were shot with a pellet gun on a school bus.
Keely Arthur has been following this story all morning long for us, and she's breaking down that school policy. Good morning.
Good morning, Josh and Leah. Yes, this is extra unnerving considering the two school shootings that have already happened this week in Wisconsin. What we know so far is that this happened yesterday afternoon in Madison. Parents got an email about it explaining that a Jefferson middle school student said they were hit by a pellet gun while getting off a bus by another student still on the bus. Jefferson's principal, Tequila Kurth, says the school was told about the incident by the family of the student who was hit. Kurth says the district doesn't have any reason to believe the student with the alleged pellet gun wanted to harm anyone. She says the school will be talking with students about positive behavior expectations and the seriousness of having any type of weapon or toy replica. Kurth goes on to encourage students to tell trusted adults about anything they know that concerns them at school, saying in part, we want students to feel empowered to positively change the culture of silence that can exist. Your child's voice matters. Now, per district guidelines found on the district's website, if a toy weapon is on a student but is not used to harm anyone, that student might receive some sort of intervention without discipline. However, students who use a toy weapon to threaten or harm another person can get an out-of-school suspension of up to 3 days. Obviously, there are a lot of gray areas in regards to this situation. We're contacting the school district and Madison police who are investigating this. And we also want to know if that student in question who was hit is injured. So we're going to find those details out and get them to viewers as quickly as possible.
Yeah, and obviously a nerve-wracking week already with a couple of other school shootings across the state.
Absolutely. I mean, when parents got that email last evening, I'm sure their hearts are racing. It sounds like everything kind of worked out, but a lot of gray areas, as we said.
All right, Keely Arthur, thank you.
We are learning this morning that a pellet gun was also involved in the school shooting in Waukesha earlier this week. Police say the 17-year-old pointed a pellet gun at another student's head during a fight. You can see that weapon in these new pictures from Waukesha police. The teen also pointed the pellet gun at officers. Police shot the student 3 times, once in the leg and twice in the arm.
I know people are going to say stuff about, oh, you can tell the difference between a pellet gun and a real gun. You can't. I will get 100 firearms experts to look at that picture right there, and 100 will say that's a firearm.
Now, police immediately gave the student first aid, stopping the bleeding. That student is still in the hospital this morning, but once he's released, he will be headed to jail.
Another Wisconsin school district is closed today after the second school shooting in as many days here in Wisconsin. It happened at Oshkosh West High School yesterday morning. The city's police chief says a 16-year-old student went into a school resource officer's office and stabbed them. That officer then shot the student 1 time. Both were hurt but will recover.
People just said run, so our teacher closed the door, locked it, and then we just put up chairs and tables up. Then we opened up the windows and just jumped out, and then we ran across the street towards the church. And we didn't really know what else was going on after that. We were just running for our lives, basically, then.
CBS This Morning will have the latest from Oshkosh just after 7 this morning.
Madison police officers are undertaking a new type of training to handle emergency situations.
Get off of me! Take the legs. I got the legs! Down, 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 down.
In the last 3 years, the Madison Police Department has been looking at its use of force incidents. They found the techniques officers have been using had a higher chance of injury for both the officer and the suspect. This new tactic encourages officers to work together as a group. The goal is to lower the chance of pulling the suspect in different directions when trying to take them down.
6:31 right now. Hattie McLean is here now with an update on weather and traffic. Good morning, Hattie.
Good morning, Josh and Leah. Take a look outside this morning. Here's the view from the Edgewater Skycam. Skies are clear here in Madison, so for the first time this week, we actually get to see the sunrise. Weather track is showing you a little bit of cloud cover right along the Mississippi River Valley this morning, but the rest of the area under clear skies. Lots of sunshine in our forecast today, so as you head out the door, expect another mild day. Temperatures starting out around 30, climbing to highs in the upper 30s. Might want to add a hat or some thicker mittens, though, today. Wind chills will stay in the low 30s even into the afternoon. Let's see what's happening on those traffic maps now across southern Wisconsin. We'll take a look here in the Madison area, getting a little busier on Park Street, but no issues to report right now on the Beltline. No other accidents around southern Wisconsin, so it looks like you're still going at posted speeds as you head into the capital city. Now, coming up in about 10 minutes, we are going to talk about a much bigger cool down. This is Tuesday morning. You can see that Arctic air moving into Wisconsin. Things are going to change up quite a bit as we head into next week.
Winter is returning. All right, Hattie, thank you. More local news now. A city is considering allowing sex offenders to live closer to schools. The city of Reedsburg says that sex offenders currently can't live within 1,500 feet of a child safety zone, which includes schools or community buildings. They're looking to scale that back to 1,250 feet to give more options for them to live. The city administrator says with the restrictions that are in place now, sex offenders don't have many options in town.
If your ordinance is so encompassing and the restricted area is so large that it kind of covers your entire town and it doesn't permit any designated offenders to live anywhere.
There are 9 registered sex offenders living in or around Reedsburg right now. The city wants to hear from you on this. The next meeting to discuss the proposal and to possibly make a final decision is set for January 13th.
More than a decade since the last car rolled off the line at the former General Motors site, Janesville leaders are focusing on what's next. The president of Angus Young Architectural Firm says it's not often they're given a 5 million square foot blueprint to work with. They've been working with the property owner there to create a roadmap for what could come next for the site. He says the changes to what they're now calling Centennial Park could address some of the city's biggest needs, including office space, restaurants, and even housing.
Housing is an important topic within the city of Janesville right now, and the need for affordable housing and for new housing options within the city is a priority that everybody is going after.
Janesville's Planning Commission is now looking over the idea. They have a meeting set for December 16th.
We're now getting a first look at just how much was spent over the 5-day holiday weekend. The National Retail Federation says nearly 190 million people shop from Thanksgiving Day through Cyber Monday. That's a 14% increase for shoppers both online and in store over last year. According to the report, shoppers spent an average of nearly $362 on holiday items.
Fans of Baby Yoda might be disappointed this holiday season. Doll versions of the Mandalorian series character won't be available until next year. Showrunner Jon Favreau told Entertainment Tonight the delay is deliberate because releasing the toys could spoil some plot secrets. They were, however, made available yesterday for pre-order.
Such a cutie. Speaking of Star Wars, if you want to get paid for binge watching the series, CableTV.com is your only hope. The website says it'll pay one lucky person $1,000 to watch every Star Wars movie back to back before the release of The Rise of Skywalker on December 20th. The 10 movies will take a total of 22 hours and 25 minutes to watch and can be watched in any order you choose. You have until December 11th to submit your application on CableTV.com. Good luck, and may the Force be with you.
So you haven't seen any of those, have you?
I have not seen a single Star Wars movie. Have you?
Better get steppin'. I loved this when I was a little girl. I was a little bit of a nerd. I loved Princess Leia. I loved Luke Skywalker. Right up my alley.
Have you seen them all?
No, I have not.
Okay.
So I should get to steppin'.
You got some catching up to do then. I have a lot of catching up.
Yeah.
Anything for some money.
There we go.
All right, 6:36 right now. Coming up in the morning sprint, we're telling you about a theft on UW's campus that resulted in a loss of $30,000 worth of instruments.
Pretty crazy. And you are going to want to check your sushi before lunch today. There's a major retailer in our area issuing a recall for fears of listeria. We'll tell you what to look out for next on News 3 Now this morning.
Welcome back at 6:39. We've been asking you to share your morning with us, and Tammy sent this photo in of a sunrise in Baraboo.
This is getting us in the wintry mood, a little frosty tree in the background.
Oh, I love that. Especially, I feel like it's always very picturesque during the wintertime with the sunrise, especially when there's some snow out there, too.
Another reason to love Wisconsin, right?
Yeah, when you stay indoors some of those mornings, though.
Pictures taken from the house. Thanks so much for sharing, Tammy.
It's an incredible photo. We'd love to see your photos, so you can send them to us over on our Facebook page. New this morning, some popular products from Trader Joe's are being recalled for possible listeria contamination. The voluntary recall impacts ready-to-eat sushi, including varieties of California rolls, the smoked salmon Philly roll, and the tempura shrimp crunch rolls. Also impacted are shrimp spring rolls and the queso fundido spicy cheese dip. So far, there aren't any reports of people getting sick, but the company says the recall is a precaution.
We are learning this morning that expecting moms are most likely not getting all the nutrients they need. A review of studies looking at the dietary habits of pregnant women found they didn't meet iron or calcium requirements in most of those studies. They also exceeded the recommended amount of fat.
New parents, listen up. There's a new way for you to try and lower the chances of your baby getting certain food allergies. Researchers find introducing peanuts and eggs early on could help prevent the allergies in high-risk babies. Infants in the study were split into two groups. One was introduced to 6 allergenic foods starting at 3 months old, while the other group was exclusively breastfed for 6 months. Among the high-risk infants, less than 20% of the exposed group developed food allergies, compared to more than a third in the breastfed-only group.
All right, 6:41. You are waking up to sun and a slight warm-up today. Feeling pretty balmy out there, around 40 degrees on your Wednesday, and just a gorgeous sunrise.
Oh, I love it.
Take it in, folks. Hattie's letting us know when we will see a return to winter weather. That's coming up after the break.
But first, it is December 4th, and we want to say happy birthday to Ada and all the other kids turning 3 today. Thanks for celebrating with us early on News 3 Now this morning.
Good morning from the News 3 Now First Alert Weather Center. The view behind me is spectacular this morning. Clear skies, sun coming up about 7:15 this morning. So we still have another 30 minutes or so before we see that sun actually. But it'll be nice to have it in the forecast. We're in the middle of a pretty quiet week here in southern Wisconsin. Our mild temperatures are generally going to continue right into the upcoming weekend. Friday will be a little cooler, but that's the exception. Rain chances then return on Sunday, and then another storm system on Monday brings the potential for some light snow, but more importantly, much colder conditions to southern Wisconsin. Plan on a big cool down next week. Take a look at the upper air pattern. Again, this is Sunday evening, just before midnight. You can see those pink and purple shaded colors. That's an Arctic air mass that so far has stayed to the north for the last couple of weeks. But watch what happens. We put this map into motion. By later in the day on Monday, that cold air is beginning to move into the northern plains, and it rotates around through the Great Lakes region. So things are going to be cooling down significantly on Tuesday and into the middle of next week. Just to give you an example, here's a look at temperatures Tuesday midday. We're looking at single digits to the north, maybe only around 10 degrees here in southern Wisconsin. So a big change coming our way. I guess that means enjoy the nice weather that we have this week. 30 right now in Madison, mostly clear skies at the airport. A west wind at 8 though does send that wind chill down to 22 degrees. Wind chill will be a factor today. Our actual air temperatures are close to 30 in all locations, 29 in Watertown. Janesville is 30. It's 31 in Platteville. 30 as well here in Madison. But our winds from the west-northwest this morning will be shifting to the northwest later on today, and they'll be increasing as well. By the lunch hour, we're looking at a 15 to 20 mile an hour wind for southern Wisconsin. This means that if you're going to spend any time outside, maybe you have a walk planned, it is going to be feeling much colder than it actually is. As the sun sets, the wind should diminish a little bit. Here's a look at your wind chill forecast though. In the mid-20s this morning, only climbing into the low 30s, so really feeling like it's below freezing throughout the entire day. Your future track forecast model, though, keeps things dry across southern Wisconsin today. By 7 o'clock, temperatures may drop a degree here in Madison, but towards the lunch hour will be above freezing, temperature-wise, that is. Lots of sunshine expected this afternoon, but temperatures will already start to cool down a little bit as we head through the evening hours. Skies should stay mostly clear through the evening, but cloud cover is expected to roll in during the overnight hours. Here's a look at that extended forecast. We have mild conditions on Thursday, but one change in the forecast, I've added more cloud cover to the region. As a cold front moves through, we'll see a big cool down for Friday, but then back into the 40s for the upcoming weekend. And there you have it, next week's nighttime lows. I definitely took note of those. I'm liking the 20s and 30s we have this week, down into the single digits next week. Here's a look at our pet walk forecast. Oh, Diva. Oh, in the Virgin Islands. Well, that sounds nice this time of the year.
Sounds like a diva.
Ooh.
Diva's not going anywhere. Very comfortable on top of that pole or whatever that is, perch.
I'll head there for the holidays. Why not?
Basking in the sun.
Yeah,
Scoot over, Diva.
That forecast, the 37, that is for Madison, not the Virgin
it is, huh?
Yeah.
Thanks for the clarification.
Right.
Probably backwards there. It's probably 73, at least starting off for the day. Yeah.
Thank you, Hattie.
You're welcome.
All right, stay with us for the morning spread up next on News 3 Now This Morning.
Have you
6:51, time for the morning sprint with the most local news to start your Wednesday.
We start with breaking news of a Madison student who shot a pellet gun on a school bus. Keely Arthur is here with the latest. Keely?
Yeah, the Madison police are investigating an incident involving the Madison School District. A Jefferson Middle School student says they were hit by a pellet gun while getting off the bus by another student who was still on that bus. This happened yesterday afternoon. According to a letter to parents, Jefferson Middle School principal Tequila Kurtz says she doesn't believe the student with the alleged pellet gun wanted to harm anyone with it. Now, this is a developing story, and we are contacting the Madison Police Department and the school district to learn more, including if that student was injured. Josh?
Keely, thank you. We now know the student shot by police in Waukesha was holding a pellet gun at the time of that shooting. Police say the 17-year-old pointed a pellet gun at another student's head and at police during a confrontation. An officer shot the student 3 times, once in the leg and twice in the arm. The student is still in the hospital this morning, but once he's released, he'll be going to jail.
A Wisconsin school district is closed today after a second school shooting in as many days across the state. It happened at Oshkosh West High yesterday morning. The city's police chief says a 16-year-old stabbed the school's resource officer. Both the officer and the student were hurt, but will recover from their injuries.
2 of Governor Evers' children graduated from Oshkosh West High School. He says, quote, "We can't keep pretending that this only happens in other communities or in other states. It's happening here too." Attorney General Josh Kaul is also reacting to the shooting. He says the state needs to work to identify potential threats earlier and continue to invest in safety precautions.
And quiet weather this morning with mostly clear skies here in Madison. In fact, across most of southern Wisconsin, we're waking to clear skies early this morning. Wind chill will be a factor, though, with a strong northwesterly wind today. Wind chills will be in the 20s this morning, only in the low 30s this afternoon.
Thank you very much, Hattie. The amount of gun background checks taking place this year is higher than last year. On Black Friday alone, more than 202,000 checks were run through the National Background Check System. That made for the second highest single day in history. FBI data shows the number is 11% higher compared to last year, but 2017's Black Friday had a slightly higher total of 203,000.
All incoming officers to a local police department are being trained in a new way to take down a violent resisting suspect. In the last 3 years, the Madison Police Department has been looking at its use of force incidents. They found the techniques officers have been using had a higher chance of injury for the officer and the suspect.
The city of Reedsburg is considering whether sex offenders can live closer to schools. Offenders currently can't live within 1,500 feet of a child safety zone, which includes schools and community buildings. The city is looking to scale that back to 1,250 feet to create more housing options. The next meeting to discuss the proposal and possibly make a final decision is on January 13th.
The State Department of Safety and Professional Services is investigating after a UW-Madison employee died from a fall while working on campus. 75-year-old Roberto Vergara had worked for UW for 10 years before the incident over the weekend. He fell while leaving a building and hit his head on the sidewalk. A coworker called 911 and Vergara was taken to the hospital but died from his injuries.
UW-Madison police are investigating $30,000 worth of stolen instruments on the UW-Madison campus. They were taken from the School of Music sometime over the Thanksgiving break. Police are currently working with building staff on security procedures to prevent any future burglaries. Anyone with information on this crime should contact the campus police department.
The House Judiciary Committee will hold its first public impeachment hearing starting at 9 this morning. This comes after the House Intelligence Committee approved a report of the investigation into President Trump's dealings with Ukraine, which came to the conclusion that the president looked to misuse his office for personal and political gain. Republicans produced their own report saying there's no first-hand account of any wrongdoing.
President Trump, meanwhile, is still at the NATO summit in London this morning. He sat down with French President Emmanuel Macron and Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau yesterday. He called on both of those leaders to increase their country's military spending. The president will meet with German Chancellor Angela Merkel later today.
The group of Democratic candidates is thinning out just months ahead of the Iowa caucuses. Kamala Harris says she looked over her campaign finances over the weekend and decided she couldn't go on. Another factor in her decision was Mike Bloomberg, who in less than 10 days spent more than twice what Harris raised all year.
Meanwhile, Andrew Yang's campaign is reaching out to the FBI after reportedly getting several death threats during his latest tour. A campaign official told The Hill that emails sent from a user going by the name Hitman Yang threatened to shoot members of Yang's team.
It is 6:56. Josh Tim has a final look at your first alert traffic. Hi, Josh.
Hey, good morning, guys. Starting to pick up now on the westbound side of the Beltline, especially between Stoughton Road and Monona Drive. It's going to add an extra minute or two to your drive time. Inbound side of John Nolan starting to pick up now between Olin Avenue and North Shore Drive as you make your way into the downtown area. And other main routes heading into the city, they're still cruising along at the usual speeds right now. Nothing major to worry about in this Madison area. With your first alert traffic, I'm Josh Tim.
Josh, thank you.
And here's a live look outside from the WISC-TV sky camera shot. Nice to see the sunshine this morning. Sunrise not officially until 7:12, but skies are clear, so plenty of that sun this morning. Here's a look at your day planner temperatures. Temps will climb into the upper 30s once again, so another relatively mild day. Keep in mind, though, northwesterly winds will make it feel a little bit colder. Here's a look at your future track wind chills right around 4 p.m. today. That's about the peak heating time of the day, so it'll still just feel like it's in the mid-20s in many locations. The weather stays pretty quiet through the rest of this week. We do have more clouds on Thursday with a high of 39. And then cooling it down again on Friday. Before the weekend, highs will be in the 40s. In fact, 44 on Sunday with a chance for rain. Guys, enjoy these mild temperatures because it really cools down next week.
Oh boy, we certainly will, Hattie. Thank you.
And thanks so much for joining us this morning, folks. Take time for your family today. Enjoy that sunrise, and we'll see you right back here Thursday morning. Have a good one.